Okay, this lesson is on 3-4 truth tables. This is the first lesson on truth tables. We're going to deal with the negation, the conjunction, and the disjunction. A truth value is one that may be true or false, but a truth table is where you can evaluate all of the possibilities for true and false. When we do a truth table, you need to know what I call the songs or the keys to each of the symbols. So the conjunction song is true and true is true, all else are false. Meaning the only way for a conjunction to be true is if both situations are true. If even one of those is false, then the whole statement is false. For a disjunction, the song is false or false is false, all else are true. So that's like the opposite of the and. So this is false or false is false. The only way for a disjunction to be false is when they're both false, even one true, and they're all true. The negation just means the opposite. For example, if you're taking not true, that means false. Not false, that means true. Okay, we're going to need that information to construct our truth table. All right, here's the first truth table we want to construct. Here's our statement, not P and not Q. First thing you do is draw a truth table. This is the standard for every single truth table. You make a P and Q, you write your statement up here. The statement that you're constructing the truth table on for this problem is not P and not Q. It's always going to have 4 rows. Okay? And you're always going to fill in the P column with true, true, false, false, and the Q column with true, false, true, false. This is how you begin each and every truth table. The next step is to box and label the dominant. Well, we learned in the last section what makes the dominant. Here we have a negation, a conjunction, and a negation. No parentheses. So that means this conjunction is the most dominant. So you need to box and label your final answer. The next step I suggest is to go ahead and number your columns in order that you're going to be working with them. You work with them from least dominant to most dominant. So the least dominant on the left of the final is going to be this column 1, we're going to call it not P. Column 2 is going to be not Q. And then the final is column 3. In this case, it's just one column on the left of the final, one column on the right of the final, and then you evaluate the final. Alright, so now we want to fill these in. Not P. You look at column P and remember the not means the opposite of this. So instead of true, we put false. Instead of true, you put false. Instead of false, it would be true. Instead of false, it would be true. Okay, we finished with the left side of the final. Now we'll move to the right side. That's not Q. Well, Q is true here, so we're going to put the opposite of that. So that's going to be false. Here, Q is false, so we'll put true. True would then be false, and false would be true. Then we sing our song that we just learned. This is a conjunction, that's the and. So the song goes, true and true is true, all else is false. So you look for the true and trues, and we see that we have a true and true here in the last row, so that would be true. None of the rest of these rows have both trues, so they're all else false. And you're finished. All right, let's look at the next example. This one's just a little bit harder. We're going to still draw our truth table the same way we started before. We write our statement here, and this time the statement is P and not Q, or P. Put your 4 rows. Fill in your values for P and Q. Remember, they will always be true, true, false, false for P, and Q is true, false, true, false. Alright, we look at our statement and we identify the most dominant. Well, we have a conjunction, a negation, and a disjunction. Well, because the negation is the least dominant, we know it's not that. The conjunction and the disjunction, however, have the same level of dominance, so we know the one outside the parentheses is always the most dominant, making the disjunction the dominant answer. So we will box it and label it final at the top. Alright, now what we want to do is number our columns. So we always need to finish the left side of the final first. So the first thing we're going to do is column P. The next thing would be not Q, so that's column 2. We'll finish up the left side by evaluating the conjunction. That's column 3. You're finished with the left side of the final, so move to the right. Well, on the right side, all we have is column 4, P. And then, of course, the final. Well, we had more than one thing on each side of the final here, so how do you determine the final? It's always determined from the most dominant on the left, which is the last thing we did on the left, column 3, and the most dominant on the right, which in this case is the only thing on the right, column 4, and that will evaluate column 5. Alright, so now we'll fill them in order. P is column 1, and we just look at P and we write it down. So that would be true, true, false, false. Column 2 is not Q. So since Q would be true, false, true, false, we'll put the opposite of that. False, true, false, true. Now we want to sing our and song. Remember, the and song is true and true is true, all else is false. So when we evaluate a true and true, you want to find this is a true and true, so that's going to be false. All else are, oh, pardon me, let me erase that. That's the true and true. So that's going to be true. So this is true. These are false. Alright, now you move to column 4. You finish to the left side. Column 4 says P. Well, P is just going to be true, true, false, false. Remember, we're just getting that from right here. Alright, last thing we want to do is evaluate the final, which is the disjunction. So we need to know our and song, our or song. So remember, the or song there is false or false is false, all else are true. So you see, here's a false or false. That's going to be false. My pen's not writing. Let me choose another color. How about back to blue? False or false, again, is false. Notice I'm looking at the 2 red columns. True or true, that's true. False or true, that's true. And that finishes the lesson.